Welcome to the Restoration Domination Podcast, where you learn actionable advice that moves the needle and helps service-based businesses dominate. Here's your host, Rico Garcia Jr.
All right, what's going on, Dominators? This is going to be an exciting episode. Buckle in. Today, as you know, I really am passionate about marketing and scaling. A topic that's been going on for several years is the labor shortage. How do we attract talent? And really, as a business owner, I think that we all know that the responsibility for anything going wrong in our business falls on our shoulders as the entrepreneur. So we really have to take ownership of how we're presenting our organization and the opportunities to the general marketplace. And today we're going to dive into exactly that. First and foremost, Stephen, man, thank you so much for jumping onto the show. Are you ready to help us dominate?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Awesome. Do me a favor. Let everybody know exactly who you are and what you do for the industries that you serve.
Yeah, I'm Stephen Rhyne. I'm the CEO and founder of conveyyour.com. And we help companies with large independent sales forces or want to grow a large independent technician or sales force, recruit, onboard, train, or retain more of their people so they can dominate in their location or their industry. And I've got about 20 years of experience in direct sales, helping in all those four phases I was just telling you about. Started my background in Cutco way back in college. And that was really like a formidable experience for me. Cut my teeth, learned how to develop grit and my own kind of story there. And I parlay that into learning technology and starting a technology company, with my knowledge from what I learned in Cutco. So
Cutco, cut my teeth, all puns intended on the Restoration Domination podcast. So talk to us a little bit about the overall journey for you in developing this, like finding the need. What was your view, right? And when you developed your organization, what was the need that you were really trying to fill? Like, what were some of the voids that you're like, man, this could be done better?
Yeah. So what I saw was that companies. So let me go back a little experience, why I started this company. So I really believe in the independent role, whether that be an independent technician or salesperson. I believe in that kind of 1099 based role where people can, build, or an entrepreneurial, whether it's be entrepreneurial or 1099,
right? Somebody
with the independence to pick an opportunity and go for it. I believe in that model because of my own experiences. And actually, for a while there, I kind of put that aside and didn't really value it as much, and really wanted to go up market and take my technology learnings and go work in corporate America. And I, developed software for large, Fortune 500 companies. And what I found is that I just didn't see how the software that I was building was really creating like a really incredible uplift in terms of sales or growth for a company. And I found what I really actually cared about were those learnings that I had earlier on in life, watching companies like Cutco to, recruit and onboard and train more people. And then I wanted to take those skills that I learned and apply them to other companies. And so our product, what I really see as a problem is as companies grow. So it's really seeing the difference between a corporate America and smaller service-based, consumer service-based companies.
Yep.
Is as they grow, each independent department in the company, whether it be recruiting or marketing or onboard, HR or the training department or the retention department, they become independent little departments, and they scale up and optimize for just their department.
Right.
And what happens is as they do it, they're happy with what they're doing. They're hitting their marks and their KPIs that they've been tasked with. But what's really happening is the experience for the recruit, aka the customer, because we've all experienced this at corporate, big corporations as a customer, the experience sucks. It gets worse. That is the byproduct of scale.
Right.
But does it have to be? Does it have to be the byproduct of scale? It really doesn't have to be. You'd think as more resources come into a bigger company, they'd have more resources to make a better experience for the customer.
And it's very rarely is that the case.
Right. Because everybody's siloed and they're not working together. And what I saw is that the experience for a rep, especially one that's biting off or purchasing your opportunity with their opportunity costs, is what's actually happening.
Right.
They are, the recruiter thinks that they made the sale by recruiting them into their pipeline, right? That would be just like a sales rep getting, or just like a marketer getting an MQL, right? And throwing them into the pipeline and saying like, I made a sale, but you didn't.
Yeah.
So the recruit gets in, and then he's having this kind of slow, not so great recruiting process. That's just like, where am I going next? What's going to happen next? Then they kind of onboard, they get a really bad, stodgy onboarding experience, and they're actually silently quitting inside that funnel.
Yes.
And they're quickly in your funnel, but they're silently quitting, or they're on the sideline, and they're just kind of like waiting to see how this plays out. Meanwhile, they're looking at 2 other opportunities.
Right.
Okay. So that's what I wanted to fix. That, to go back to your question, I wanted to help companies as they scale to not ruin that experience. In fact, like make it better as a result of these new resources that they have.
Yeah. And I think that business owners and entrepreneurs should really look at and start paying attention to, because what got you here, right, to this level isn't necessarily what's going to take you to the next level. I mean, we've all heard that, right? But what happens a lot of times is you're so used to your system that you forget how that system works for new people that are coming in. So a great example of this is you take let's not talk about a large organization. Let's just talk about a relatively okay organization, $5 to $10 million mark, right? In the beginning stages, the owner operator, they were the ones that were figuring out little systems, and they had this hand-on, approach. And it was, putting you under my wing. I'm going to coach you on this. I'm going to teach you. Hey, let me get you with, Betty Sue over here. She's our office manager. She's going to take care of you. Betty Sue's so excited. And she's, so there was that whole thing. But then of course the organization starts to grow, and people start to think, oh, we've got this great machine. Our company is growing. We're doing great. But they lose the touch with how the experience is for these new recruits. And this is why it's funny. I think that every entrepreneur periodically should kind of pop their head in and be like, hey, by the way, I want you to be brutally honest. How was this process? Like, did it suck? What was broken? How did you feel? Did you feel like we really had our shit in order? Like, that we're a good company, that, but this process, did you feel that we really nailed it? And you'd be surprised, like sometimes even as a shopper, right? Or as a consumer, how many times haven't we had experience and you walk into a place, you're like, oh man, they could do this so much better. If they only did this and this, our experience would be so much better. Why is it that entrepreneurs don't look at their applicants and the people that are trying to recruit from that same light?
This is super common, and you nailed it. So I think it comes from their own previous experiences and the status quo. So especially if they don't come from, like I see a very big difference between corporate America or any company that's hiring W-2s and how they think about it versus people that are really, really well practiced in recruiting, like commission-based sales reps.
Can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah. So the best companies, who have they're doing 1,000 interviews a week or a month, right? They're just crushing the growth of their team. They think it as entirely a marketing funnel, where the recruit is a potential customer,
right?
Okay, where they are positioning the opportunity, they are constantly realigning with that recruit through the whole process of like, why are they here? What's in it for them? What is that sort of thing, right? So it's very much a marketing funnel. But with like people that come from a kind of a typical corporate world, or even just small business world where they didn't go through kind of a process like that, the mindset is more like, you are a potential candidate that you should be happy to come work for me. Like they still have a mindset that the limited resource is the job, right? And that, they're the gatekeeper to the person that could work for their company.
Right.
And that you are. I mean, even if you're recruiting, hundreds of people a month, you still have to be kind of a gatekeeper. But they come with the premise of, well, it was hard for me to get going. I didn't have somebody onboard me well. I didn't have somebody ask me how my process was. And so if they're going to have grit in this role as a good salesperson, they're going to figure it out. And it's almost like they want it to, in a way, they subliminally want it to be tough for the recruit. And so what I'm trying to get people to think of this as like, you're thinking about that person only looking at your opportunity as the only opportunity they're looking at. When actually, like, especially younger people, they're looking at 3 or 4 online opportunities at the exact same time.
Right.
And they're seeing which one plays out. And they're always looking around the corner to see if they're going to nope out really early in the process because they don't like what they're seeing. Right. Mm-hmm. It's the type of world we're in where everybody, that joke from Aziz Ansari, he's like, man, we can't go out to eat anymore. Like, we can't go out to eat because everybody's going to text me like an hour before and say, who's going to be there?
Right.
Before, when we didn't have phones, we just all showed up at the at the dinner table and we were here, right? Right. Well, that's what's going on, and so especially the ones that are going to be the weird thing about it is the best recruits, the best if you have a bad experience, you make a bad funnel, you're going to get not the recruit that was like, I'm the man, I could do anything, I'm the gal, I could do anything, I just need to pick the right avenue. You're not going to get those recruits, right? You're getting the one that's willing to stick through a bad experience, right? Just like a customer who's really, this is a great, if you draw it to a correlation to like what a customer flow would look like, then you can really see how bad this would be, right? So it would be like saying, actually, I want to make my form really long and stodgy and gross on my website for a potential prospect to join, right? Or to get an appointment. I don't want to collect their information unless they're absolutely ready to sell or like a ready to buy. Excuse me. Yep. Okay. That's the type of thing you're doing for your recruits versus like there's entire multi-billion-dollar products like Chili Piper and stuff that are designed just to, put people down funnels and qualify them and fast track them to an account executive if they have these questions answered that way. Versus, maybe put them on a different funnel. We should be doing the same thing with recruiting, and with, building our team.
How do you think the mindset shift, or what causes that initial mindset shift in the business owner, entrepreneur to really start addressing this as part of their marketing campaign?
Yeah, I think that what causes, how do they make the shift? Well, I think where it is to do an audit. If you did an audit, right, of your own processes, you'd really see how broken down they are. Because I think a lot of people make jumps in their head of like what the process really looks like as a recruit. So you could sit down, like you could say, okay, I'm going to sit down with my recruiter or my marketing, whoever is in charge with like, getting people, candidates on our schedule. And I say, I want to go through our recruit candidate experience. Let's go through the entire thing. Or let's just sit down and without even going down, let's just document it, what it is. And you see all of the places where we were making assumptions where, wait, how does the candidate know to go there next? Is it an email? Is it a text message? Were we clear about that? Yeah. And once they see that, I think they'll finally go and then they ask themselves, would I want to go through this experience? I think then that will kind of make them click like this has to get cleaned up. Yeah.
And my like 2 cents on that, just to add a little bit of color to that, for the organizations that maybe are not, 100 million, 200 million, and, that's close enough still to ownership and or CEO level. My opinion should be something that the owner and or the CEO should actually go through. And why do I say that? Because if you hand that off to a manager, this has just been my experience with dealing with tons of companies and doing some consulting. And what I've noticed is that upper management, even though they have a lot of freedom, even though they're being hired to really address an issue, they never want to ruffle feathers. It's very difficult for upper management, even C-suite executives, to be like, hey, by the way, this system is shit. Because nobody wants to lose their job. Like nobody wants to offend an existing system that thus far has created this kind of success. So having an owner and or like a CEO, high level executive that either A, really can speak his mind and, they're paying him for that truthfulness, or is just fearless in the process. That's the person that really should be going through this. It shouldn't be some mid-level manager that doesn't have the ability to change. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. The taste and seeing what's off, like the upper leadership or the ownership is always going to be able to see that, because it's their baby, like it's their company.
Right.
And so relying on just implementation or implementers to know what to change isn't enough, right? You do want to have the person that goes through and like, would I want to experience this? What else should we say? What else could be punchier? That sort of thing.
I like that.
So yeah.
Yeah. So let's kind of switch gears here a little bit and let's talk about what are the best practices today that you've seen to really attract good talent. Recently, I was listening to the Patrick Bet-David podcast, which, by the way, if you guys have never listened to it, definitely listen to it. Amazing guy, amazing content. But he was talking about how, right now he's looking to expand his business, right? And how he's looking to create packages that are attractive to really bring in that top tier talent. And he said that he's looking for 10s, right? He's looking for 10s, perfect players, 18 players. He goes, but the problem with a lot of businesses that are trying to get top talent is that they think that they have 10s in their organization right now, but they don't. It's just, that's the best that you've ever seen. But in the real world, that's actually a 7. It's an 8, right? So how do you go out and attract 8s? And what he was talking about, and where I think what I'd really love to dig in with you, is some of the best practices, so that as an organization, we're putting our best foot forward. We're creating the absolute best environment for these people to be like, oh, wow, this is really interesting. So can we dive a little bit deep into what you found are some of the best practices now to get some of this top tier talent? But before we do that, let's just take a quick moment to thank our sponsors. What's going on, Florida contractors and public adjusters? I've got something for you. And I want to introduce you to Pack on the Go. Pack on the Go really should be your go-to organization whenever you're talking about dealing with contents, pack outs, pack backs, contents restoration, etc. Here's the hard truth. A lot of us in the restoration arena don't want to turn away money. But the reality is a lot of restoration companies simply are not built for contents. They don't have the storage facilities. They don't have the expertise on how to properly handle contents, how to properly restore contents. And what ends up happening is just because you wanted to take on a deal, you end up spending more money and ultimately you have an unsatisfied customer. And that's where Pack on the Go has been an absolute amazing addition to our team in the way that we've done business with our restoration company and with other public adjusters that we've recommended over the years. Pack on the Go, it services the entire state of Florida, and more importantly, they have the expertise of over 20 years in the business. You can go ahead and have your customer and yourself track all of the inventory, 24/7 surveillance in their warehouses, and the list of benefits just goes on. Listen, you're a restorer, do what restorers do best, and that's get in, take care of the water mitigation, the mold, the fire and smoke, and leave the contents to the pros. If you're in the Florida area, reach out to Pack on the Go, the Contents Pro. Hey, Restoration Dominators, real quick, I want to jump in here because I want to talk about money-making activities, right? And in this particular case, we're going to be talking about finding that absolute best talent. And look, let's face it, if you're a restoration company and you're an owner or you're a hiring manager, you're constantly trying to find that top industry talent, right? Well, listen, Weilander is the go-to recruiting organization in our industry. Now, why can I say that? Well, very simple. With over 1,000 placements, and more importantly, experience in all 50 states as well as Canada, they not only have the connections, but they have the expertise to find that perfect superstar for your company. So listen, don't waste any more time sifting through resume after resume and conducting interview after interview. Let Weilander do the heavy lifting for you and find that absolute perfect candidate. Contact Weilander today and start building your dream team in disaster restoration. Hey, Dominators, real quick, I want to drop a name on you that I think can make all the difference in the world in your business. And that name is Jerry Edel. Who's Jerry? Jerry's a specialist when it comes down to referral revenue from insurance agents. He started way back in the day in the 70s as a restoration technician, and 34 years later ended up as a national sales trainer for one of the largest restoration franchise companies in the US. And for the past 16 years, he's been helping restoration contractors succeed at creating long-term referral revenue from insurance agents. And by success, Jerry expects a full-time sales professional in 12 months to have created at least 40 agency partners to commit to sending you at least 5 referrals a year. And Jerry's process, listen, it's unique. It's different from all of the traditional insurance agent sales strategies. And more importantly, Jerry can help you create a long-term referral revenue from insurance agents. So go ahead and schedule your free call today to see exactly how Jerry can help you. Make sure that you check out jerryedel.com/dominate. Again, that's jerryedel.com/dominate. All right. So we are back. So again, we're going to be talking about what's really attracting the top 8 players, the 10s in the industry, and how aggressive do we need to be to actually attract those people, because they're already secure. They're okay. And you're not the only organization that's trying to find this top talent. How do we go about that?
Good question. Good question. Now, you just mentioned maybe you don't already have some 10s, okay? But you probably have some really good 8s that you could build off of. Right. And I would actually go to those people first, and I would say there's a few things I would ask them, especially if you can get some that are 8s and they started 3-4 months ago. Okay, say, where were you? Where was your mindset? What were you looking for when you moved over? And it's kind of like a great thing to ask customers too. You know, what was your world when you decided to pick us? Okay. And so, in the solar industry that we work in a lot, it would be something like, hey, I don't want to trade dollars for hours anymore. I knew I could work hard, but I wanted to I wanted a bigger container. I wanted a place to take my vision and it would fit into a larger vision. Things like that, right? I wanted something where I could work, hard for 3-4 years and potentially walk away with life-changing money that I could, use to invest. Right. Right. Maybe that's a tagline for your recruiting. You see what I'm saying? To recruit that type of person. And so what you're really looking for is the psychographic motivation that got that person into the door. Right. Right. You know what I'm saying? And that's your copy. That's the copy that you can use for your summer recruiting if you don't know where to start, if you're kind of revamping. The next thing I think is just think big in terms of how big your funnel can be at the top. Because typically recruiters think more about being an operator, like job role, plug operator, role, plug operator. They don't think about funnels. They would never want to spend any energy attracting and positioning an opportunity too much so as to lead to more people in the funnel. You see what I'm saying? They're like, Indeed, job post, get candidates, filter through candidates, call them. They think of it like a fulfillment process. Right. That's not what we're doing here. We're doing a marketing process because you're trying to bring in candidates that are talented in terms of who they are and the alignment with what's in it for them. So would this be more of for the sake of using an analogy to really paint the picture, more of in terms of fishing, right? An angler who's just throwing out one line at a time versus a net fisherman, right? Yeah, exactly. It's net fishermen, but also so here's how it really plays out. So we've got a couple ways people are typically doing it. You're working with a sourcer, we've got companies, one called Allure down in Florida or in Miami, that does social media recruiting. Okay. And they actually go out and they source candidates that fit a criteria. Might not have any background in your industry, but fit the performance type of criteria they're looking for. Right. They kind of fit those firefighter tests where it's not about what the test was of the firefighter, but rather how that firefighter that was successful tested. Right. It's kind of like that type of thing. So they're looking for them. They're the sourcers, but they're looking for they're casting a wider net, right? For candidates. And what you're trying to do is position and sell your role, whether before you even qualify that person. Okay. It's not qualify up front, assuming that person is going to come into your, because we're just so amazing. right? Instead, it's like super awesome video that I call it like the shotgun test. Okay. Like if you're sitting at sitting at a bar and you hear, you kind of know what that sound is immediately.
Right.
What you want to do is make a video that signals to that person the right type of person you're looking for. Okay.
Right.
So typically this will be in our world, it'll be a video that's very confident, very upfront, tells them it's 100% commission, tells them, but if you're willing to work really hard, shows them all these people doing really successfully, the swag that they're winning, things like that, right? It's signaling to like that person that you're the type of person that we want. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And then only then when they want to move forward, do they start doing some qualifications of like, do you understand this is 100% commission? Do you understand, that typically the people that work here work more than 40 hours, to hit their goal, because you can't say how many hours you're going to need to work.
Right.
But you do that qualification after they're like, I'm in, I want to learn more. Right. But that's not what recruiters typically do. Right. It's more, you want basically an hourglass recruiting funnel. Okay. Whereas I think recruiters kind of do like this, like flat recruiting funnel. They don't open it up enough at the top. And then they don't spend any time doing any multimedia or any video or anything like that to really align with that person. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. And then they also don't capture more and nudge those. So we focus heavily on get more people in the funnel, show them the role, qualify them, and then nudge them to schedule for an interview, and nudge them via text message or email over and over again until they get back and schedule an appointment if it's right for them. Right.
Let's talk about automations in this process, right? Because again, as you're speaking, and again, I love automations and I like to buy my time back. And we were actually talking about this off camera a little bit, and how much of this process can and should be automated. Because as you're speaking about this, I'm like, yeah, sure. You've got this nice big wide funnel. It's kind of what you want, because to some degree, good recruiting is about good numbers. It's a good numbers game. If you don't have enough numbers, you don't have enough to choose from. So you're automatically seeing tens everywhere where there really are none, right? It's just because now you're out of this place of desperation, and you also don't have a pipeline, which a lot of people start looking for a hire right when they need the hire, which is probably the worst time to look for a hire, right? But like, how much of this automation and interaction can take place? Have you noticed like companies that are using automations to kind of pre-qualify based on data sets, maybe questions or how a form is filled, things like that, and then maybe saying, hey, before we even jump on a call, send us a quick video Loom call or whatever, or Loom recording of introducing yourself and why you're excited about this opportunity, things like that. Can you kind of give us some more ideas, maybe some little tidbits that whoever's listening can be like, oh, you know what? That's really amazing. I should probably implement that. Yeah.
I'll just give you some story or some numbers. We have people recruiting. We had one company schedule over 500,000 people for interview last year.
Wow.
Right. And almost entirely automated. Okay. Going to company 1,000 people, they're recruiting a month, or that candidates per month. And they were not, every recruiter was doing all of this on their phone, like personally, sending iMessages, over 300 messages a day. Like that's how much. And all of these hours they got back when they automated it all. And the big concern was, are we going to make this so, we were talking about this earlier, right? Like, are we going to make this so unpersonalized that we lose recruits? And guess what? Their numbers stayed the same. And they got all of this time back.
Right.
All right. Now, and that's at a large scale. So, what I found about automation, if you do it well, if you actually like your podcasting, automation process was amazing, right?
Thank you.
If you do it well, if you take thought, see, people think automation and they conflate it with lack of. We've all seen bad automation, like the sales email that looks like a canned spam email where they didn't even get my name right.
Right. Or it says
I live in a little rural town. It says, "How's it going in Canyon Lake? How's your business in Canyon Lake?" I'm like, I live in a little tiny town. Like my business isn't even here.
Right.
So we've all had bad automations like that. If it's done really, really well, nobody, I honestly, especially younger folks that are typically, I'm not saying all, I'm trying to be ageist here, but typically for the roles that we go after, that we recruit for and onboard reps for, are field based. So they're, under 30, right? And so they want to immediately move forward and learn about the role. They don't want to be held up by having to wait for a recruiter to call them. It's 11:38 and they're on their phone, and they want to learn about the role and schedule an interview for the next day if it makes sense. Are you going to tell me that because it's not personalized, it's not a better experience for them?
Yeah.
Because we all know how nice Amazon is, and we don't have to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
So what the difference between automation is, can they get a hold of somebody and talk to a real person when it's time to talk to a real person?
Right.
Okay. And what people forget is, guess what? If you buy back all of this time that you were spending automating stuff, you actually get more time to have real conversations with recruits when it's time to have a conversation with a recruit.
Right.
But you're throwing the baby, you're penny wise and pound foolish, because, you're not making that space for you to be able to have those conversations, because you're still doing all this like hygiene factor stuff of, please make sure you come to the interview. Like
right.
reminders for interviews.
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
I want to talk about two other topics here before I forget. I want to make sure that we address it. One of which is, what have you noticed are, if any, right, or some tidbits or some advice that you can give on some of the way that the media, the outreach portion, has been created to really bring in this top tier talent? And then the following question is going to be, because I want to get this out of my head so I don't forget, is how does the onboarding, how do you take that same kind of automation, the same kind of, really methodical way of doing things, and then continuing that quote unquote sale through the onboarding process?
I like that. Okay, good. So what I've seen well with media is, you're kind of asking how they do the video, how it's typically
correct.
Laid out. Yeah. So typically it's what I've seen work really well is it's more of context. We've all heard about the cello or the violin player that played in the subway, who, gets $1,000 a ticket.
Yeah.
That story. It's so much of that, right? So it just smells desperate when you're like, hi, I'm the CEO of, and you've never been on video before, and you're like, you should come work for my company, that kind of thing. Versus, I'm not joking, versus just a quick selfie video. You're like walking. I gotta be somewhere. I'm walking to my next, business meeting, and it's like, hey, love to meet you. This is what we're all about. This is a place where people come to grow. In the last X blah, we had this many people come and join us, right?
Yep.
Very interested in meeting you. Pop in your info. Let's schedule a time. That kind of thing. It's just way more. I know we're the stuff. I know we're the place to be, right?
Right.
Even though I know that, I'm not going to talk about myself all the time. It is about you, Rico.
Right.
Even though I exude confidence in what my company is, it's all about you and why you're watching this video right now. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. 1,000%.
Yeah.
And it really is taking that social media marketing mindset, because that's where everybody is hanging out. It's insane to me how so many of us, I think the roofing industry does this really, really well. I think the solar industry does this really, really well. And I can name in the restoration arena probably 2 people or 3 that are starting to really get it, that understand that our people are in fact on social media, that's just where everybody's hanging out. So that social media, that personal approach, and just really for you, the listener, right, the dominator out there, I really want you to take inventory of how you spend your day or spend your free time when you go on social media. Who are the quote unquote entrepreneur celebrities that you're following? How is it that they're showing up on their videos? When you notice it, very few of them are corporate-y, the corporate type, right? Very few of them. They're
And
all very
it's social video. It's 1-to-1 aspect ratio, or 9:16, 16 by 9.
Yeah.
It's mobile. I mean, most people are going through their experiences to get a role and book their appointment on their mobile. They're not doing it on a desktop computer.
Yeah. I mean, you look at PC, the computer, workflows nowadays. I mean, it's just going down, and mobile is just really picking up.
Yeah.
On that.
Well, the people that are doing desktop are the ones like, I don't have a job right now, and I'm going to sit on my desktop and go through Indeed ads and apply and everything. We're trying to recruit people that like have a lot, that are doing things and are doing.
And that's amazing. And you know what? Yeah. That's actually like such a great gold nugget here.
Yeah.
Because again, really understanding why you're marketing even on the social platform as opposed to even the desktop, that in and of itself, right? And this is where I think like A/B testing is so important.
Right.
Where are you getting better quality candidates?
Right. So in a marketing world, right, we call that intention platforms or attention platforms, right?
Right.
So like Google search is an intention platform. Social is an attention. You're grabbing attention and converting attention to an intention through a trigger, right? Indeed is like an intention. Like, I don't have a job, right? Or I'm looking for my next role, which can be really great candidates there too. Okay. But what we're really looking for is to message and attract the people that might not be even being thinking about it, the opportunity right now. Right.
Right.
And then they come into your funnel. So you were going to ask you asked about onboarding. So our whole thing is that we want, from the very first time you hear about the opportunity all the way through I'm trained up and I know how to do my role, we want that all done in one platform. And so I described like the very first time you used Uber. I talked about this earlier. It's like they thought of everything. Like I just, I download the app. There was no assumption that I knew how this thing worked. It was easy to use. And then I booked a car and it showed up, and I had low anxiety because I knew the person's name. I knew how to get in. Even the first time, it was pretty simple. I just got out of the car and it was paid for, and I didn't have to tip, or I did tip, and it was just easy. Right.
Right.
And so what happens is you recruit a rep, and then they start getting emails and text messages from a different department that's like, okay, it's time to get you onboarded.
Right.
And don't click. Have you ever had that? Don't click on that email first. Click on this one first.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, happens all the time.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. So what you want to turn your experience into is like this linear onboarding experience where there's one next action.
Right.
Okay. So typically what happens is, as soon as somebody is recruited, they go immediately into an onboarding experience where it's like the very first thing you do is you resell them on why they're here.
Right.
It's not, I assume you're here. Like I assume that you're in. It's like, hey, I'm so glad to have you. Welcome. Here's how the onboarding is going to work. Here's our expectations for you. Here's when we'd like you to get it done. Bam, bam, bam. This is how it's going to look. Here's the next thing to do. And then we collect all of their information. We get their the driver's license and the I-9 stuff. And we have them sign an e-agreement right inside the portal. Like it just pops right up. They don't have to wait for another email to come.
Right.
And it's just like that nice stream. And this is all done under a branded logo portal app that's on their phone. Right. And so just trying to make that one seamless, kind of like a concierge experience. Right. That's kind of just way to describe it.
I love that because again, and I think that there's so much value in not only ownership and, C-level executives and, HR departments and everything else, to have the confidence that there is a system in place. Because I mean, I think all of us have experienced something with an HR department, and you're like, well, what do I do? Who do I contact for this? And they're like, I've heard this. This is like real life stuff. You know what? It's really that part of the process is really unclear. And you're like, oh man, really? Like immediately what that does is just takes this amazing, great experience about my excitement for being part of this organization. And I was at a 10 and now
it was too good to be true.
Yeah. I was like, I knew it. I knew they didn't really have the shit together.
Great. And I'm going to be out doing my thing. And if this is what our onboarding process is like, what's our sales process like for our customer?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because it's the very first time they taste what it's like to be a customer of this opportunity.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then this is what happens is you think you have a recruit, and maybe they get through the onboarding, but they go to knock their first door, or they go to make their first call, or go service the first house or something like that, and they're thinking, what's next? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so the same thing would happen. Let's follow that to training. So if recruiting and onboarding don't hit, then what they do in training is that we all can do training, and we do a lot of great stuff where you can't scrub through video, you have to watch it and everything.
Right.
But we can all get through compliance training without learning the training. I mean, we've all done
without
it,
really being there, right?
Without
being
really
there
being there. Like I'm in, yeah, exactly. Like it's in another tab or whatever. And it's kind of like that driving where you did for 5 minutes of driving. Like I can't remember the last 5 minutes of the driving.
Exactly.
I drove, but I can't remember. So that can be the person. Now, that's why training, I always say, man, it's not your training. It might not be the what. It's, did you get them in onboarding, or did you get them in recruiting? Did you get them so bought in that if you didn't even have training videos, would they go, I'm so excited about this op that I'm going to go open YouTube and just figure out how this industry works so that I'd be ready for my job because I'm so excited about this job.
Yes.
Okay. Even if you didn't provide the right training. So is it more about what's in it for me? You did not set the hook in the end of before onboarding and in onboarding. And that's why I always say this is just a big, giant positioning and belief building exercise to drive a certain behavior. You know what I mean? Out of the person or into like imbue the spirit of your company into them. So
yeah, I love that. And it's true, right? It's looking at it from the sense of, how can I, it's selling them the opportunity, right? It's like, it's that whole deal. It's like they are a customer for the opportunity that you're presenting. And, when you've got, as a business owner, you've got all of these aspects that are so dialed in. Well, you also inherently buy the opportunity to be a little bit more picky, because now you've put in the legwork, right? You know that your onboarding is on point. You know that the training is on point. You know that this opportunity experience for your recruit is so top of the line that now you can, with confidence, be like, I can go out and reach this 10, this 9 type of recruit that I'm trying to get. And I'm confident in showing them my system.
Right. There's some, nobody wants to grow into pain. Like that's the Dan Martell said that, with no one wants to grow into pain. And that goes for all business owners really. And so, if you really think about, like, really analyze as an owner, like what's holding you back from going to wanting to recruit that 10, there might be a little bit of like, I don't want to cringe when they say it's not for me because your stuff sucks. Right. Or if I add 100 people to my pipeline right now, I'm going to have all of this extra work manually adding these people, and who knows if they're going to work out. And then I trained them and then they left. Nobody wants that. So I call it back pressure. So the pressure that's on you against your top of your funnel is making it so you can't grow the top of the funnel because you have all of this work further down the funnel that is either mentally or physically stopping you. Like the physics is slowing down the funnel.
Yeah. You're basically bottlenecking yourself in the process.
Yeah.
Right. So what other parting pieces of advice would you give to the entrepreneur out there, whether it's the public adjuster, the roofer, solar, restoration guy that's out there that are looking to really attract good quality talent and they really want to get their systems dialed in right? What other words of wisdom would you have before we go ahead and wrap this up?
Yeah, so I know I've talked pretty high level. I'll just say some tactics, right? Go get like a Lucid or a Whimsical account. Whimsical, I love. Just start with your team. Just start using Whimsical and just mapping out what would my recruiting flow look like if I really, spend a few hours and just say, what is our current flow? Just do an audit. Like, what's our current flow look like for recruiting? When does this happen? Who does that? Just get it on paper, at least document what you currently do. And then say, okay, for this process, what do we want it to look like? And so as a technologist, I would say, put the technology aside and assume in this day and age of 2024, the API call or the technology, to do that could be done.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what I think people realize is like, it's almost all can be connected to everything.
Right.
Okay. It's easier when it's all in one system, but
Right.
I'm just saying, so spend some time auditing your recruit flow. I call it separate. Your onboard flow, which is everything. People kind of conflate training and onboarding. I'm saying just the nitty gritty of like badging that person up and getting them like an employee or getting them a 1099 contractor. And then look at your training flow.
Right.
Okay. And then just audit it and document it and figure out ways, like just start with the lowest hanging fruit on any one of those flows. It could be, because it's all prioritizing and sequencing, right? So
right.
I'd say buy back your time first with making changes to your recruiting flow and your onboarding before you do training, because training takes the most time and effort if you're the same person.
Right.
Okay. Focus on buying back your time there through the lowest hanging fruit. Start with the lowest hanging fruit. Don't try to always recreate the wheel. Maybe you can just look at improved copy, a better reminder here, that kind of thing, right? Make a video. Use our system, whatever. So,
right.
And then,
or just use their system,
And then the other thing I'll tell people is, when it comes to training content, which is a typical bottleneck for like, hey, I'm going to spend more money. I'm going to increase my cost per recruit. I'm going to go out and get my 10s. It's going to cost more money in social. How do I make sure they pan out and they really love it here? With training, they focus too heavily on big, long, highly polished videos. It's like, get a good mic, right?
Yep.
Be a person, record small, bite-sized chunks, just like you do on social. Like a Instagram video is really short, teaches on one thing. Keep them tight, okay, on one topic.
Right.
Even just one topic in a course on how to get referrals. Just do a 3-minute video and just start cranking them out. Right? Don't have to worry about where they're going to go and when they get deployed and everything like that. Just make the content, and then take those and break them into small training experiences. Whether that just be an email sequence to your people, or our platform, or like another LMS. So
I love that. So obviously having a system that is kind of all inclusive as your system, if for those that are listening and they want to go ahead and they say, you know what, I would love an all-in-one type of solution for this, because it does make sense, right? It's less things to break, less things to worry about, less logins. It's always better to have simplicity in the business. You don't want to be bogged down. How would they reach out to you? How would they reach out to your organization? And how does that process work?
Yeah, check out conveyyour.com and then go to the get a demo and schedule an appointment with with our people. That might be me. And it's conveyyour.com. So like the two words, convey and your, CONVEYOUR.com.
Awesome. And I will have a link in the video description as well as in the show notes. Steven, man, thank you so much. I appreciate all of your wisdom and your insight. And thank you so much for solving this particular issue in the industry, and for just being here on the show today. And for those dominators out there, listen, go ahead and market to your 10s. It's important. You're spending so much time, energy, and trying to build your business and marketing on the front end to the customer, but you really need to have a totally separate marketing machine for your recruits, because that's the way that you're going to dominate your local market. And as always, hustle, hack, dominate. I'll catch you guys on the next one.
You've been listening to Restoration Domination, your #1 resource for tips, tricks, and hacks to help your business grow. Subscribe to our channel and follow us for more Restoration Domination. And follow our host at Rico Garcia Jr. on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Till next time, this is Restoration Domination. Hustle, hack, dominate.